You better be ready.
Did you push record?
Yeah, it's recording.
Oh, it's recording, Facebook land. Good evening, Revitalize Johnstown, family, friends, and those of you who are watching us. My name is John D. Bartola.
Joe Taranto.
And we are here for installment number 2 of our, are we calling it a podcast? What are we calling this?
I don't think it's a podcast.
This is a recording.
What's the criteria for a podcast? Doesn't it have to be something you like download off of like...
Well, what is the criteria for an article on a Facebook group? Are we having the same conversation?
Doesn't really matter.
For those of you wondering why we're having this opening conversation, there was supposed to be an article in the Tribune Pravda discussing Revitalize Johnstown and also Revitalize Johnstown 2.0. The story got killed.
Why did it get killed?
Well, for those of you who like to watch my posters and memes, I know I'm a horrible narcissistic person according to some. I posted several of these last 2 nights ago, and apparently there was so much commentary on Revitalize Johnstown, they cut it. They decided they couldn't sway our viewership.
They cut it because their publisher took the job.
Robert Forcey
took the job.
The Vision chief job as executive director.
With Vision pretty much solidifying the fact that Tribune and Vision were intimately intertwined.
And Frank Burns called them out today in a press release. We called them out online. Nice. To Robert Forcey, congratulations on your new job. You get to deal with us now.
But why were they going to write an article on us? Because a person got upset and then ran in after throwing a temper tantrum to make his own group. So the Tribune was going to use that as an in to then take a trash article on us.
And for those of you watching this, Joe and I had a very passionate discussion about should we respond to the Tribune or not. You didn't want to.
No.
I did. I had an interview. I actually posted it on Facebook.
Well, you enjoy it.
Well, I'll tell you, from this point forward, if those of you watching from the Tribune, congratulations, Renee. I may not answer them anymore. No. It's at a point now where it's too much. But for what it's worth, congratulations, Rob. We look forward to working with you.
Yeah.
First topic of our week is the Greater Johnstown School District. I went to their board meeting on Tuesday. Nothing to say about the school, right?
No, well.
There's no violence, according to Amy and President Pence. Dr. Amy said she just doesn't see the violence. I'm totally wrong about the violence.
That's what she said at the meeting.
Quote, I just don't see it, end quote.
So she did a complete 180 because what? They got their money?
Well, they won their lawsuit, so now they have the process of how much extra money they could get.
Because they have what now? They already had what, 50 million?
This year they have 74.1 million, but you have the COVID money.
Okay.
They usually had about 50 million.
For 3,000 kids. So.
And now because of the lawsuit ruling that took 8 years to get, they'll get even more money. So it doesn't go off your tax base, it goes off of your need and your poverty and your education score. So the dumber the school is, the more money they get.
Yeah, the worst performing, the poorer the area, the more money. But they have more money than almost everybody else in the entire area, and they still can't perform their function properly.
And what's even worse is we discussed the school violence issues, and then one of the school block members sees you at the city council Wednesday night and calls you an idiot.
Oh yes, she did. Yeah.
What is your view on the violence? You have kids in the school.
Well, there is a lot of violence, and my issue is the way they address the violence is that they don't go after people who are being truly violent, bullying, and causing problems, but then they really throw the book at people who defend or reacting to being picked on or someone starting a fight with them. So they're not addressing it properly.
They've hired 18 security guards. They spend $350,000 on metal detectors. They have the wands. They have.
And I'm okay with them doing the metal detectors. I understand going through, and I think that's good. But they don't go after the violence before it becomes a problem, and then when it does become a problem, they go after the people on the receiving end of it as well, to the same extent of the people who are causing the problem all the time.
Part of my issue is I've sent dozens of fight videos to the
it's
school.
all the time.
They deny there's an issue. They have reports from the state showing almost 2,000 fights just last year alone. We've had the school shut down twice in the past 30 days over gun threats. We had someone murdered outside of St. Pat's School right down the road as we're in Moxon right
Yeah,
now.
and that guy was 18.
18, living in Pitt. They still haven't caught him. They think they know where he is. All the
Did he go to
hoopla.
Johnstown?
Don't know.
I don't either.
But the thing is, they keep minimizing the issue, and then when you bring
They're
it
not
up,
consistent.
No.
They're not. Sometimes they're like, it's horrible, and we got to do all this stuff, and we got to throw the book at everybody. Because I was on the receiving end of that.
your kid had a charge.
Yeah.
And you won your case. They threw it out.
Well, we're not going to get into that.
No, get into that.
Minor stuff, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But they go after. They say they're going after, and they say stuff like, "Well, this is what you wanted." No, this is not what we wanted. We wanted them to go after people causing problems, not everybody blankly without any judgment. But they're not solving the problems, and they won't. I don't have any faith in.
They don't
in
address
doing
them. The parents aren't going to the meetings. Usually, it's just me alone with one or two others.
it. Yeah.
The school
Well,
board,
they go when they have a problem and something happens.
and they're done.
But look at the people who are on the school board. They're not really concerned. They're concerned about getting their kids jobs there,
Yeah, the money.
or the status. I mean, the people that we talked to the other night. What do they have to do with the school? What is their background in education? Why?
Nothing.
They don't have anybody that's really pushing to better the education. When you say our education's horrible, no, it's not. Standardized tests are evil.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then there's no other method. Everything is great. Well, no, it's not. It's not great. And then it's not that people are criticizing because some of my kids go there. It's not that you're criticizing because you hate the place, because I really don't care one way or the other. But the criticism is because you want it to be better. And if they can't recognize that there's a problem, which they are one of the last place schools around.
I think they are the lowest place school.
If they can't recognize there's a problem, you can't make educated decisions that are going to make it better. And the fact that they trash people who actually are concerned and want to make it better, I think they do that for job preservation, honestly. But
They like to scapegoat me.
But when they want $13 more million from the state, they cry. It's horrible.
Transient population.
And the kids are suffering, so they cry that same thing that we say. They say to the state to get money, but then when we say it to the community and say we need to change some policies to make it better, how dare you Trojan cry?
And the real issue is we have a lack of space in the schools. They closed Garfield Middle School. They still own the building. They just had the auction. They're auctioning off the items again. They don't have enough space for the kids. They acknowledge there's a lack of space.
I think they closed the school down because they had plans to make an apartment building for one of their friends.
And it fell through because with COVID and everything else going through.
Well, it also fell through because I got them a hard time with the
The
zoning.
planning commission. That was back in 2015.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember.
Oops, I made a mistake, I guess.
Anything else you want to say about the school?
Oh no, I mean I could say a lot, but we'll
Since
move
you
on.
mentioned planning commission, I want to jump into the city council meeting. Those of you, and all these videos are on my Facebook. I go to all these meetings. I'm sure you all love it when I go. I made Joe come with me. Well, I asked you to come with me to the city council. I dragged him by his hair. The two big issues on the agenda for city council, one was covered in the paper. That was the small games of chance.
Oh yeah, that was. I mean, I'm glad they spent a half hour talking about that because what's going to really save the.
Explain to our viewers what's going on.
I'm not sure. I don't know the details of but they spent a half hour or so discussing taxing and regulating skill. I don't know. I call them gambling games or whatever. But I guess
small games of chance,
skill games or something.
Bingos, whatever they are, little games.
Those little
or whatever.
things people play in the bar.
And they're popping up all over town, and they want to get tax revenue from it.
Well, let's be honest. Chuck was leading that, and Chuck owns
TNC's Lounge.
And he said.
Quote,
I had them in there, and with the old law, something to the effect of, it took me 3 or so months, it was like $400 and something, he said, it took me 3 months of having those machines in there to pay for all the taxes and fees or whatever, and he doesn't have them anymore. But he's spearheading going after other people, kind of like, we're going to get them. So he's using his government position to enact vengeance upon other people who dare have vending machines because he can't have it.
And one of the issues they brought up is enforcement, because they're going to have to hire at least 2 people paying full salaries and benefits, or farm it out to a private contractor to go around to fee everybody and charge everybody and inspect.
But these people, if they make money on those machines, they're already paying taxes on their income.
Yes.
So this is extra tax on top.
And they're going to pass it.
They're going to pass it, but they're not going to be. They're going to have to hire people, and they're going to lose money. It's going to like the parking meters. I don't think the parking meters make.
They
money.
always lose money.
So you pay
most
a guy to
people
go
complain
around.
about paying parking downtown and the enforcement of it.
Well, I don't park on a meter. I find other places to park. I park where there's no meters. So because there's always spaces, but it's going to be another thing that they spend all this time on. Is it helping the city? No. Are them going after people with vending or the skill games going to do any real benefit to the city?
No. It's all.
Stop spinning your wheels on stupid things because someone's bent because they, 10 years ago they had to pay $400 on their machines. There are people already paying taxes on them, flat tax it or whatever. You're done. Why you have special fees?
But the problem is no one runs for these positions. You have the school board. There's 5 seats up. I've heard of Tony White is the only person opposing them.
Why would anybody want to?
The city council, we have 2. We have Capriati and Arnone, the incumbents. The rumor is Brian Maletic is going to challenge them from the school block because Bobby wants to get somebody back on.
Yeah, and
honestly,
he's up.
And no one else is running. And then you find the biggest thing out of the meeting on Wednesday was Mom's house. The paper still hasn't covered it. The TV hasn't covered it. I'm sure they will eventually, but we're at a point now where Mom's house wants to put this $4 million recreation center.
And most of the people in the area around them that know, they all are for it.
They're totally
So the people weren't going, no, we don't want it near our house. Most of the people who live right around it said they wanted it, correct?
Well, it's going to bring jobs. It's going to clean up an area.
Look, if I want to go over and work out, it's right next to my house.
Yes, and it's free.
I'd want one right by me here in Moxham.
It creates jobs. They maintain the building. It brings money for the tax revenue.
I'll tell you what, City Council, the Cypress School lot, all it is a big dirt pile. I'll put a nice picture up of it later. Tell them, work out a deal and give Mom's house that property over there, and they could build a big center there for me. So that'd be nice. I could go work out.
And then they'll still complain.
I'm getting old. I need to work out.
Oh, you're old.
I am.
But the problem we're seeing with Mom House is it's like I called it a ping pong game. They are
they're
stalling it back and forth. So basically, for those of you who are watching this video for the first time, the Planning Commission of the City of Johnstown refused to take a stance on a recommendation. So now for all these months, they kicked it up to the City Council with no recommendation. The City Council could have just voted on it and approved it.
So when we were talking to that council member after the meeting last time, and I said to him, anybody on council have any education or training in planning? His answer was no.
No, none.
These people, when I got on the planning commission, there was one fella, and I can't remember his name right offhand, but he actually did the whole course, and he was certified to be a planning commission. He was the head of the planning commission. So I started talking to him and gained information. He really knew his stuff. But most of the people really didn't know what was going on with it. And I'm betting right now most of the people are on the board, but they haven't probably read through, they didn't study up on it. So what happened is that they then, for some reason, advised the Mom's house. They're a commercial 1 zone. They advised the Mom's house to then downgrade their zoning, which some of the council people said, I don't like the idea of them downgrading, which they shouldn't, down to R1, which R1 is 1 single family home per lot. It is the most restrictive residential zoning there is. It's for people that want to live in just 1 family per house kind of place. That you would not put a recreation center there. Currently with their C1, what they should do is C1 allows commercial space up to 5,000 square feet. They should put in there also small rec centers. So if they fit and they want to put, because I don't know what their plans are, they might put a rec center that's under 5,000 square feet. I think the basketball court is like 4,000 and some square feet if you measure it out. So, but if they're putting a half court in a room to like do some other exercise or something, well then they don't need a C2. They could probably fit in a C1 under 5,000. Or they should bump them up to a C2 if they're going to put a full center in. But I don't really know their plans. But that's what they should ask the people there at the planning. What they should have said. What's your size you want to put in? Because I don't know. And if they said it's under 5, they should change the plan. They should change the actual zoning ordinance to amend it to where that C1 allows a recreation center up to 5,000. Because think if you're in a plaza, which that's what C1 is, like plazas and office spaces and stuff like that. If you're in a plaza, how many plazas do you go to that have like a little studio that people exercise in? Or
part of the problem is process.
Oh, they're horrible.
The planning commission doesn't know what they're doing.
No.
We literally sat through a half hour of a council meeting where
They don't know what they're doing.
clueless.
And
They
people,
sit
were
there.
no.
They make the process so difficult for anyone that wants to open up a business or create anything in the city.
Unless you're Gentile.
And Gentile, for those of you watching, but Joe and I were part of the protest 2015. He wanted to have a woodshed to cut
They
his wood,
bent over backwards for him.
and he got the spot zoning.
He got what he got
Because
but,
he was on
and the
council.
only reason he didn't get it as quick as he was going to get it is because we
Protested.
protested it.
And the thing is, I've tried to explain, if you don't make a lot of noise, for those of you who watch our page, yes, we do videos and posters, and we're very critical. If you don't get the attention, nothing changes.
No.
So Mom's House now has to wait for a special planning commission meeting.
They took
Which
the
is
planning
probably not
commission,
gonna happen.
The planning commission bumped it up with a stupid recommendation of R1 to the
No recommendation.
no recommendation.
They refused to comment on it. They just
To
kicked it
the
upstairs.
council.
And two of the council members
Are
sit
on the
on the
planning
planning
commission.
commission.
And then the council is going to kick it back. So this is, I think it's in the works that there's certain people that don't want it.
They're gonna kill it.
So they're playing bureaucracy ping pong
Mm-hmm.
to wait them out and kill it, so that the Mom's House people get tired and give up on it. That's my opinion, but
It's a very good opinion.
yeah.
And it's at a point
And,
now
and
where
there's certain people that have certain connections that are over there that I think because they didn't come over and kiss the ring of certain people over in Roxbury, they're putting the screws to them, and they're gonna shut them down.
so now we have to help support Mom's House to save free business in the city of Johnstown.
Or give them the lot and mock them, so I can have an exercise center. I'm just saying.
You have 6 kids and go all over next door.
I'll take it. That'd be
While
nice.
we're talking about the city of Johnstown, the other issue that popped up when we were at the city council meeting 2 nights ago, Wednesday, I just cuff of the head started talking about the zoning board. Because I remembered last year during our protest of the city council, and yes, people, we love to protest, the city had acknowledged they would change their zoning laws to change the
Gonna straighten out that
sexual-oriented
840
business.
or something.
Yeah,
something like that.
because Lucy's has drag queens, and for those watching, there's a drag show Saturday night, February, is that the 11th at 10 p.m. at Lucy's.
Yeah.
And the bar had lost the show because they had claimed the drag queens were sexualized. And we
And
all know that's,
they are sexual,
but they're
They
not
are
strippers. They're not a review.
based on that law. The things that you watch on, or that ordinance that we have for the city, that things that you see on network TV would be considered a sexual show.
And the problem is they promised they were going to amend it. They were supposed to have it done by August. They never did. So
Yeah.
I brought that up. Unbeknownst, as I'm giving this speech and people are watching it on Facebook, they had already mailed a letter earlier that day to Liquid Currency.
Yeah.
They are having a review. They're not strippers. We call it a review.
I think Lucy's has a grandfathered in cabaret license or something of that.
Because they're a hotel, I believe, a hotel liquor license.
Well, but I think they had a special cabaret. I think they had got grandfathered through because even where how that law is written, that ordinance for them, you can only have sexual type shows, which would be drag or anything of that nature, in a heavy industry zone, which would be heavy steel mills, which is like M3, the heaviest industry you can. No bars or clubs are in that area. They're because you wouldn't put a club or a bar in a heavy industry zone.
No.
So they wrote the law, and I think it was like 99, 2000. I just ran 2000.
Yeah.
They did it so that there wouldn't. They're kind of like teetotalers. They didn't want any sexual stuff in the city. They just
But they also said you're not allowed to dance. That's we were making fun of the movie Footloose.
But that's it.
Dancing was sexualized them, so
Anything
you can't have
sexualized, you can't.
And dancing. And the other issue is we have other clubs, and I won't name them in the city, that are doing these drag shows. And I support the drag shows. I used to run drag shows at Lucille's. I was their show director for 10 plus years. The issue is not Lucy's Place. The issue is the city's targeting Liquid Currency.
They are.
So they have this, we'll call it a review, because it's all about the language, scheduled for next Thursday.
But they're not strippers.
No, they're a private company.
They wear like bikinis and stuff, like lingerie stuff.
Well, they're still dressed.
They don't.
They're dressed.
Strippers would imply you're removing all your clothes.
And the problem with what we're discussing is once again government imposing on small business, putting restrictions. I'm not even sure it's legal for the city to overstep their powers of the PCLB to close a bar down. I don't think they have that power. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. I'm not sure. But in their ordinance, they say that it's a code matter and.
If they had a police captain personally served the notice at 10 p.m. last night.
I don't think that's
proper. That's intimidation in my book. They're threatening.
Proper.
So how this is going to play out? Now the attorneys will play with it. The bar has an attorney. The city has a solicitor, and they're going to go back and forth.
But they're doing this. Who are they protecting? Is the city of Johnstown that upright and standing where we can't have any of these horrible places where they do this kind of dancing? Is that really going to save the city? Because we don't have them now, really.
No.
So
we don't have them now, and there's almost no business downtown.
But there's all these.
And when you say that, they all cringe.
But there's all these clubs that are doing it.
Yes. But in here, it's being now. Is that because our leaders are all in their 70s and they're all antique, and they just don't? They're out of touch, or is it really about their businesses have to get the business, and anyone else that tries to do anything they squash?
I think if it was one of their friends doing it, I think they'd let it go. Well, didn't Aces have drag shows and things?
They still do, and they have reviews. They have.
But you say it had nothing to do with the drag. They sent when they first did this. They sent a letter.
They canceled
to
Lucy's shows
to shut them down.
Yes.
So initially they were going to do it, and I think they became afraid of the backlash.
Well, we protested.
Well, yeah.
We showed up with the big rainbow flag. We made a big stem. The news covered us, and they've since backed down.
But did they send a letter to Aces? Did they send a letter to any of the other places?
The fire halls? No, nobody. Just the gay bar.
So
it's an attack on liquid currency, and it's an attack on. And I still expect Lucy's to be attacked next, because it's just a matter of Ethan is not a very good city manager. He
doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
I live here and I have kids, and I honestly don't really. I mean, those places don't. They don't really bother me. I'm not a big fan of them. I'm not a big fan of drag shows, but I don't.
Right. But a lot of people go, and it generates business and talk, and it's something to get out.
It's entertainment.
When I go downtown and see how sparse it is, the lack of people in the businesses, where is it? You need to draw people in. Yeah. And when you create an atmosphere like this,
people in, then great.
You create a problem. I also brought you, Joe, Thursday to the Cambria County Commissioners meeting.
Yes, that was lovely as well.
I recorded that also. Joe actually made the newspaper today for that.
I know, I saw. I'll have their sent to my mom.
I had several landlords call me up and complain because the ERAP program, that's the Emergency Rent Assistance Program, has been closed. It was suspended is the better word I think they used. Mm-hmm. The program, for those of you watching, was to give rental assistance, utility payments to help people get off the ground from COVID. So Joe and I originally went back in April, March of last year and complained.
Yeah, it was a while.
Because the problem was every county around Cambria County takes 4 to 6 weeks to give out the money.
Not everybody. They're on a lot shorter timeline.
But in
I know
Cambria,
Pittsburgh ones were like 4 to 6.
8 to 12 months.
Yeah.
So if you can't pay your rent and you're hard up because of the economy,
well,
we promise you money.
The problem is, someone gets behind because they lose a month's rent because they lose their job or something happens like COVID, they shut them down. So they applied that program, so that's 1 month. If they were allowed to continue to pay, then they'd only be 1 month behind, but the people at the county said you can't even accept payments. So now, because it's taken 8 months, now you haven't gotten payments for 8 months. That's a lot of payments.
And people get evicted in the timeline of that way.
You can't ask landlords to eat 6
months.
months.
So when this initially happened, and you and I originally protested about it,
they did straighten it out.
Well, they really did. They admitted that
they helped straighten it out.
They were going to hire a firm to process the applications.
Yeah.
And the guy who was supposed to do it, we never heard another word about him. Mm. We don't know if he just failed at his job, had a nervous breakdown, or whatever happened.
They passed me off to that lady that was at the meeting.
Tracy.
And then she did take care of things for me, and she helped accelerate, because until her, I wasn't even getting responses really back.
Well, I believe the county mismanaged the entire program.
But I was hoping that it was going to fix the program, because then I had other people apply, and I'm right back to the same problems I was having.
And then we hit a point now where the program gets suspended by the state. They're going to cap. I believe Tracy said we're going to lose about $2 million from the program.
Well, they already took half of the last one away.
They took $4.2 million.
And why? Because they weren't dispensing it properly.
They gave it to Pittsburgh and Philly.
This is money that's passing through the county. It's going into our community. Why wouldn't you get that out as soon as possible?
Yes, to help your own residents. Now, I'm going to throw poor Ed Cernick under the bus.
Oh, he did.
Ed Cernick gave very, if you watch the video, it kind of like, did he really say that as a demo? And the paper never reported it. They kind of protected him. It's in the video. Ed's basic stance was, get a job.
Yeah,
I had 2 jobs.
We shouldn't subsidize you for 12 months.
30, yeah.
Or whatever. But the thing is, it's not always the time that they can't pay for 12 months. It's that the county says you can't, not to pay for 12. The county was telling tenants, and then they told me not to, that I'm not allowed to collect it. And when we went to that meeting the first time, solicitor Barbin told me, no, you can't accept payments, because I was like, oh, I was doing it wrong, because I just said, well, just stay 1 month behind, pay me as much as you can. We'll apply to eat when the thing comes through. You know, oh yeah, we missed a month, we're 1 month behind, and then then ERAP would also pay 3 months ahead. But I was like, yeah, just pay as much as you can. Yeah, we missed a month, you know, or two, but they'll take care of that. They're like, you can't do that, which, I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. That's a flaw in the program or how they're doing it.
Part of the problem with the commissioner's office in general is we really have 3 Democrats in office. Scott Hunt is not a really, he's a rhino. I hate to say it. He votes yes with the Democrats. Oh, he's 99.9% of the time.
He's Tom's shadow.
He never, that's why I call him Mini Tom. He never questions anything. He flits around to every office in the courthouse, gossiping and playing nursemaid to kiss everyone's ass. And quite honestly, that's not the true mark of a leader.
If I were a commissioner and this was a program, I would go into that office and I would sit through and then look at how they're doing the entire process. Not that I'm gonna, start doing everything, working it and doing the whole process. But until you go in and you know the bottlenecks, you don't know. And I don't think any of them there, any of the commissioners knew the bottlenecks. I think I learned as much as I think just sitting in that meeting listening, I probably learned everything that they knew about it.
Part of my complaint was they never discussed these things. It shouldn't have been me, as what Frank Burns calls the citizen journalist, to show up and say, I'm getting all these phone calls, your program is suspended, please comment.
And they're getting money.
They should tell us themselves.
And the county's getting money for administering them, correct?
And yes, and then they're not, and then they don't tell us.
So you find the bottlenecks, you talk to the people the workers at the thing, whoever your lead is there that you can trust. You sit in the room with them, you go through the process with them, and you sit and you work with them, and they go, this is the bottleneck. We need more workers. And then you as a commissioner,
but they're not doing that.
Everybody in that you can to get that going. I want this gone. How many people do we need? But
they don't do that. Tom is too busy going to all the events, taking his Starbucks
dogs
coffees.
And jogging.
Scott's doing the same thing with the trail. It's all about, here I am at basketball. Instead of talking about hard issues that affect the taxpayers.
Getting into a room and going through paperwork isn't you can't take.
It's not glamorous.
Oh, look at me! I'm trying to figure out how the ERAP program's screwed up.
Well, think about the day you and I were in the courthouse talking about Tom and Scott, and the comment was, well, they're cheerleaders.
That's what they said.
You were like, if you're calling them a cheerleader, but they're not a leader, they're
cheerleader.
They're cheerleader. And the thing is, they only do anything when they're forced. When we went to that meeting, if you'll notice, Scott did respond. Ed had word diarrhea. BJ responded. Tom didn't say one word.
But even by their response, a lot of their responses were questions. Mm-hmm. They should have already known.
They didn't ask. They didn't care.
But they didn't really ask those questions until we started asking the questions. Mm-hmm. That's their job.
And if we wouldn't have brought it up and said, what are you doing? There would have been no conversation. So as the media writes us out of things, and I know that, don't say it. Yes, you write us out.
And then one of the commissioners, and I won't say, who, whatever, said, well, how do we know what their turnaround time is? You know what?
You ask.
Well, that's their job. They should have went and called other commissioners in other areas and said, what's your turnaround time? Because I guarantee you call other commissioners in other counties or the state and ask them as a commissioner for a county, say, what should our turnaround time be? They're going to answer you. Joe Nobody, I call, they're not going to answer me. I have to file a right to know request and wait 90 days until I get any information. They will tell the commissioner, oh yeah, you know what, your process is slow. You should bump it up. Okay, and then you do it.
But here's the problem where we live in Cambria County, Joe. We don't have a media that holds anybody accountable.
Well, we have the problem.
The problem will do an editorial saying, oh, they're doing a great job.
And then they'll be like, and that Revitalize group,
it's all their fault.
They did it.
The last topic I want to talk about today, I don't know, you're not totally following. I had an appeal victory with the OOR against Camtran yesterday. For those of you who are wondering, I'm always filing the right to knows. I'm sure they'll be sending out mailers saying, oh, he's wasting taxpayer money on lawsuits and right to knows. $97,000. They'll do one of the
He's a ripper now. We should bring him over.
But I asked for all the documents with the raise grant. And those of you on my Facebook, I'm constantly questioning the raise. And so is Senator Langerholm. He had a whole public hearing back in September.
Yeah.
I think Wayne knows there could be an issue, and he's questioning them. He asked very good, probing questions. Wayne, if you watch this, we still love you, even though you'll never talk to me again because I called him Pinocchio. I tried to apologize to him.
He wasn't happy.
He wasn't happy. Wayne, if you watch, we still love you. He's questioning though.
Good.
The point though is, I asked for these records because I found an email from the city of Johnstown showing they had a secret meeting back in March of last year where they discussed all these bulleted points. So I right to know requested every single bulleted point.
Yeah.
And surprise, surprise, I right to know requested the city and Camtran. The city said Camtran had the records. Camtran said the city had the records, and we had this bag, the ping pong game.
Ping pong.
And then on a whim, I right to know requested Camtran's legal invoices because I thought they're billing their solicitor all this money. I want to see what she's getting paid for. She's out of Reading. They pay someone 3 hours away to drive here one way.
Of course they do.
They billed 3 hours here,
There's
3
no
hours
attorneys
back.
in this area.
So they redacted every single word on the invoices. They also
I didn't see
denied
that, yeah.
they had any records. So I appealed it.
All blacked out.
So we're dealing with the appeal. And there's some, for those of you who are watching, these appeals are not difficult, but there's a thing called an in-camera review. And I found this out, believe it or not, from Representative Burns. Because when I was talking to him, he said, ask for it. So I did. The OOR grants. So what they do is the OOR requires the agency to surrender all their records in a sealed envelope. I don't get to see it. They do. And they determine if the redactions were appropriate.
Yeah.
I asked for a ruling of bad faith. The OOR said they really can't do a ruling of bad faith. They're not that kind of government agency.
Yeah.
But they did say you have to surrender all the invoices and all these records because you didn't prove your burden that you don't have them. They didn't provide an affidavit. They didn't do all the things that you're supposed to do to explain.
They didn't do it.
Which makes me wonder, they're at this meeting. They acknowledge they're at this secret meeting, which, by the way, it should be public. It should be a public hearing. It should be minutes. There should be all sorts of things they should be doing, and it's behind closed doors.
Of course it is.
And, of course, who's with them? Vision. Because Vision was the one behind the raise grant, which is why I'm questioning it. So now I have this ruling from the state. They have 30 days from yesterday to comply. And Joe, I'm going to predict for you now, they're either not going to comply and force me to sue them, which we've had multiple losses where we do the review of or they're going to openly sue me to block release of the information.
They're going to block it. They're going to do everything they can.
I am curious, Rose, if you're watching, I have a series of posters for you over the weekend to see what you're going to do. We know how much we love you too. And it's a tragedy because the real issue you and I always have is transparency in government.
Yeah.
Just be honest. Tell us how you're spending our money. We haven't even discussed the Main Street project as we're running out of time.
No.
They have this $20-some million project downtown that has no movement. They claim that it's been 2 years.
They're going to sit on it.
Drag it.
I think at the meeting, didn't they say that we even hire
They didn't hire the project manager yet. They're doing the environmental study that should be done in December.
They're going to do an environmental study to see if they can repaint more of these dogs.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they have
that environmental study is going to be like $20 million alone, right?
It's going to be about a couple $100,000. It's not cheap.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you figure the train station project, but that's the raise grant.
Mm-hmm.
Junction, what's your function? So we're at this point now where we have all these serious issues going on, and it's just you and I questioning it. So, of course, we have to have an article about us in the paper criticizing us. How dare we do that?
They want to tear it down, to take credibility away.
Now, I will give credit. Not all the media is slanted. I think JAC does a great job.
Yeah, they scooped the Tribune.
JAC. Yeah, that's right. Oh, you think like me.
My God.
I'm reading the Tribune, and I saw the article on Crispin Havner, and he's a great investigative reporter. If we had like 50 of him here, maybe he should work at the Tribune.
That's what they all should be doing. That's what every reporter in this town should be going and poking at all these meetings and asking questions that we ask.
But we do it, then we're the ones that are in trouble because we ask.
And holding them accountable.
Yes.
They don't have to be mean and nasty. They just have to ask questions. What are you doing with this? Why is this way?
Yes.
Those are, and then maybe people would buy the paper more.
If you notice, the Tribune Prov does become so
very
thin.
Yes.
And as soon as I heard Forcey resign to go to the Vision, I thought, is the paper getting ready to go down to 3 days a week? It's 5 days now.
There's not a lot of people.
And I honestly, Joe, I'm probably not going to give any more interviews. It bothered me enough about the slanted article of Revitalize Johnstown.
Most people my age, and they're not getting the paper.
And it
people
bothers
I know
me.
Are like my parents.
Every time we do something, we're written out, or they find an excuse to give someone else credit.
Yesterday, that was nice.
Well, they put So I guess we should give Katie a prompt.
She did nice.
She put you in.
And it was a fair article. It was a fair article.
But they usually don't do that. And
I worry about Randy. He's done bad things.
So the question of fake news in the media is alive and well in Johnstown. So we have a whole bunch of topics for our. We didn't talk about honesty.
Oh no. Well, yeah.
we'll title that anyway. They won't know what it means. But final thought, Joe.
I don't do final thoughts.
I like the Jerry Springer final thought.
That's your thing.
I think my final thought
You're
is
the
for
host.
those of
I'm
you.
just the guy in the chair.
I'm the host. I'm 12 years on TV. Here I am. Maybe they'll resurrect some of the bad
just
episodes.
the other guy.
The other guy. I would encourage you all to do the hardest thing you can do. Start asking questions. Show up to the meetings. Post on Facebook. Write letters to the Tribune Pravda for the Readers Forum. Contact WJAC. Run for office. There are 5 open school board seats for Greater Johnstown School Board.
10 signatures.
That's it. There's a whole group of parents in Westmont who are mobilized. They're screaming on the news. They're going to run people to challenge the status quo. If there were more people like that, more people like us, to question everything our government does instead of just 2 people, that they could say, oh, they're the scapegoat, they're the trouble. And the thing is, for those of you who criticize my posters and videos, I want to explain to you, I do that because it gets you to pay attention. I used to post the right to know requests and the commentary and everything I've been doing, and a lot of people weren't paying attention to it.
Humor's key.
And it is key. So I put a picture up making fun of, and I make fun of politicians.
We make fun of ourselves.
And we do that all the time.
Don't take yourself too seriously. Have fun with it.
It's not meant to be mean. It's meant to be funny.
Yeah.
And if you can't, and remember, if you're in politics and you can't laugh at yourself.
And if you don't like what we're putting, please make it, send it to us secretly so we can then post it.
Yes, we'll post it. And we'll have fun with it. So those are my final thoughts for the day. I want to thank you for our Good News Friday, all the good news going on. We'll see you all next week. God bless and take care.